He was one of the most dangerous criminals within the last 100 years of Jamaica's history. So dangerous and heartless, his name will not be forgotten anytime soon. He was the one and only Sandokhan. In this video, I look at crimes he had committed, his death, and where he was buried. I am Nigel D. Salmon. Welcome to Jamaican Chapter. Sandokhan was born Wayne Smith on Sunday, May 13, 1962, at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital in Kingston. He attended Baljami All-Age School, now Balmaji Primary School, in Olympic Gardens, dropped out of school at age 14, and began learning cabinet making at around age 16. He learned the profession quickly and soon was working on his own as a cabinet maker. Wayne Smith lived in a section of Waterhouse Kingston 11, which was badly affected by criminal activities. To be exact, he lived at 13 Barbados Road in Waterhouse. And as a teenager, he got involved in protecting his turf and people in his area. It did not take long before he crossed paths with the legal system. When he was 16 years old, Wayne Smith was arrested for larceny. That is, stealing personal property. On January 16, 1979, he was sentenced to 12 months at hard labor. After serving out this tough sentence, he began a life of crimes that turned him into the infamous Sandokhan we know today. Sandokhan. How did Wayne Smith got this name? It is most likely he got the name from the fictional character Sandokhan. Sandokhan is a character created by the Italian author Emilio Salgari and is the hero of 11 adventure novels. Yes, the fictional character Sandokhan is the hero of 11 novels. Some of the novels were made into a 6-part television series first released in Italy in January of 1976. The following year, 1977, the first Sandokhan film was released, portraying Sandokhan as brave, ruthless with his enemies, but kind, generous, and faithful to his friends. These manly qualities would inspire the young Wayne Smith, who took on the very name Sandokhan. All the crimes committed by Sandokhan are not publicly known, but here is a list of his crimes. Sandokhan had become a member of a Jamaican drug gang at the time based in New York and Kansas City. The top-level gang members overseas supplied Sandokhan and other local members with money and weapons. In Jamaica, Sandokhan controlled the area called Cuba in Olympic Gardens and served as hitman, killing rivals and other targets on orders he received from the overseas posse. Sandokhan became a hardened criminal, always armed, and showed no hesitation to threaten or kill informers, likely informers, and opponents. The period from 1986 to 1988, though, saw Sandokhan getting formally identified by police for some of his brutal killings. By November 20, 1986, murder warrants were out for the arrest of Wayne Simmet, aka Sandokhan. Yes, he was at this time formally wanted by the police on accusation of committing murders. Let's look at some of the crimes. Sandokhan, at age 24 in 1986, was accused of fatally shooting a homeless youth whom was considered mentally ill by some individuals. According to the story, Sandokhan went after a man and shot him. He turned and saw the homeless youth nearby. Fearing the homeless youth would talk about what he saw, Sandokhan shot the homeless youth. This happened in early October 1986. Another murder was the gunslaying of 20 years old Eddie Carnith of Olympic Gardens on Wednesday, October 15, 1986. According to the story surrounding this incident, there was a gang war between men from the Moscow section and the Havana section of Olympic Gardens. Sandokhan and few of his friends were involved in the gang war. The next morning, Eddie Carnif's body was found with multiple gunshot wounds. Sandokhan and one of his cronies, called Francis Beckford, aka Prentice, both of Olympic Gardens, were accused of killing Eddie Carnith. Based on the testimony of a witness, Sandokhan and Francis Beckford would eventually be found guilty on June 9, 1988 in the Home Circuit Court. On Tuesday, November 18, 1986, police officers from the Olympic Gardens police station made an attempt to arrest Sandokhan. However, Sandokhan escaped. The policemen then roughed up or physically assaulted Sandokhan's woman. Sandokhan did not take it lightly. In the wee hours of Wednesday, November 19, 1986, Sandokhan led members of his gang in a brazen attack on the Olympic Gardens police station. It was about 1:30 a.m. on that Wednesday morning. Sandokhan and his cronies used a ladder to climb over the wall at the back of the premises. Once on the inside, Sandokhan and his cronies, who were armed with M16 rifles and petrol bombs, launched their vicious attack. The petrol bombs were thrown with attempts to burn down the building, and then the M16 rifles were fired from different directions as the men stormed the police station building. The small group of 5 policemen present at the police station was taken by surprise and had little to no time to effectively react. Acting Corporal Ezra Cummins, age 27, of Rock River, Clarendon, and Constable Raymond Thomas, age 24, of Sligoville, St. Catherine, were just coming off patrol duty when they were cut down in a hail of bullets in front of the guard room. Both policemen died instantly. District Constable Archibald Robinson, age 40, of Kingston, fired his revolver, but his small firepower was nothing to those of the invaders who gunned him down on the first floor of the two-story building. The remaining two policemen survived by hiding. Sandokhan and his cronies took the revolvers from the bodies of the dead policemen. Then they broke into a safe containing firearms and took 4 M16 rifles, 2 submachine guns, 2.303 rifles, 9.38 caliber, and about 150 rounds of ammunition before they flee the scene. Police officers from different areas were mobilized to find the culprits and the stolen weapons. One of Sandokhan's cronies, Kenneth Worms, was shot dead by the police at a house in Waterhouse community, and some of the stolen weapons recovered. Later that day, another friend of Sandokhan, Nicholas Henry, was caught in Waterhouse and guns stolen from the police station recovered. Understanding the intense search by the police to catch him, Sandokhan attempted to flee the island using fake documents. He was arrested at Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay on November 22, 1986. Sandokhan and his friend Nicholas Henry, both of Olympic Garden, were charged on 3 counts of murder, arson, and robbery. On September 17, 1987, Sandokhan escaped from lockup, but he turned himself in only a few days later. When Sandokhan and Nicholas Henry first appeared on trial in October 1987, they had no lawyer representing them. So the female judge, Justice Morgan, ordered legal aid assistance. No bail was granted to Sandokhan and Nicholas Henry. The murder trial for the killing of the 3 policemen lasted until early 1988. On Thursday, March 17, 1988, the jury found Sandokhan and Nicholas Henry guilty, and the judge sentenced them to death by hanging. But Sandokhan had a plan. On the night of Wednesday, June 15, 1988, he escaped from death row at the St. Catherine District Prison. He made up his mind that he would never be caught by the police again. Then on the run, Wayne Simmet, aka Sandokhan, was a prison escapee who was convicted for 4 murders. The murders of the 3 policemen at Olympic Gardens Police Station and the murder of Eddie Carniff, resident of Olympic Gardens. The 5 feet 9 inches tall Sandokhan, who had a large burn scar on the right jaw, was described as very dangerous and must be approached with caution. That was how the police described him. There was no doubt that the police description of Sandokhan's dangerous nature was right. Sandokhan had become more dangerous and unpredictable than before he was convicted, sentenced, then escaped. The police gave several places that Sandokhan could have escaped to: Port Henderson and Helshaw in St. Catherine, Port Royal, Hanbury, Manchester, Palmer's Cross, Clarendon, Seaview Gardens, and even 2 places in the parish of Hanover. The big question among government officials was, where was Sandokhan hiding? Of course, Sandokhan was the husband of a young woman living in Waterhouse, Kingston 11, called Janice Smith. She was his wife. He had a small child with her. With his wife and child living in Waterhouse, it was the belief among police that he would go there. Probably he did in the dark of night, but he did not stay there. Sandokhan went to Riverton City, and it did not take long before he was making more duppies. He met up with some of his like-minded friends and began terrorizing Riverton City. On Tuesday, July 12, 1988, Sandokhan was engaged in a shootout with some police officers on the Spanish Town Road near Riverton City. Sandokhan was wounded by a policeman's bullet but managed to escape. His wound was not life-threatening and he soon recovered. Then 15 days later, on July 27, Sandokhan, armed with an M16 rifle, went in search for 25-year-old Moses Bent, otherwise called Brother. He found Bent on a dusty road in Riverton City, returning from his pig farm. Sandokhan called to Moses Bent. Then he gunned him down with the M16 rifle. About 4 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, July 31, 1988, just 4 days after gunning down Moses Bent, Sandokhan and 3 of his cronies went to Trelawney Avenue in Riverton City, where they took 16-year-old Robert Winter from his house and marched him to an isolated area. There, they tied the frightened and scared teenager to an old car. The exact reason why Sandokhan targeted the young Robert Winter is still not clear. Maybe Robert Winter had witnessed him killing Moses Bent. Whatever the reason was, Sandokhan and his 3 cronies stoned 16-year-old Robert Winter to death and left his battered body still tied to the old car. The police was later called by residents of Riverton City. 5 policemen traveling in 2 cars were on their way to investigate this report of murder. As they turned off Spanish Town Road to Riverton City, Sandokhan and his 3 cronies jumped from behind a wall, firing at the 2 police cars. A shootout ensued before Sandokhan and his cronies fled. Luckily, no one on either side was shot. Sandokhan at this time was one of the most wanted criminals on the island of Jamaica. A reward of $25,000 was out for his recapture. This amount was soon increased to $50,000, a lot of money back in 1988. Police accused Sandokhan of killing a minimum of 9 individuals since he escaped from prison, and the police officials were right. Hatred for Sandokhan increased in Riverton City. He moved from community to community to avoid recapture. It was not the police that would put a permanent stop to Sandokhan. The 27-year-old Sandokhan lost his life by the bullets of other criminals. On the early morning of Thursday, September 8, 1988, Sandokhan and his friends were ambushed by gunmen in the community of Waterhouse, Kingston 11. They were fired on by an M16 rifle. Some of Sandokhan's friends managed to escape the shots, but Sandokhan was struck by 3 bullets, and one of his friends, 35-year-old Winston Blake, otherwise called Wizzy, was also struck. The attackers fled. The unhurt friends of Sandokhan quickly came back to help him and 35 years old Wizzy. Both men were badly hurt and bleeding. Sandokhan was shot in the right chest, left side of his buttocks, and his right leg. His right leg was so damaged by the bullet that the main bone was broken and sticking out. Still holding to life, Sandokhan was unable to move by himself. His cronies took him to a house where they removed his blood-stained shirt and pants, leaving him only in his brief and socks. They tied the broken right leg with a shirt. But it was very clear that Sandokhan and Wizzy needed professional medical care urgently. So the following happened. The cronies of Sandokhan went to a woman in Waterhouse who owned a car and forced her to take the wounded Sandokhan and Wizzy to hospital. The woman agreed. She didn't have much of a choice anyway. She managed to convince the men to let her tell the police she was just taking a wounded man to hospital. When she stopped at the Olympic Gardens police station to do so, Winston Blake, aka Wizzy, panicked. He panicked. He rushed out of the car and began running away. Already wounded and bleeding, he fainted a short distance away. The woman was then forced to speed away with Sandokhan and his cronies to get to the hospital. Police officers, clueless about what was happening, came out of the Olympic Gardens police station, picked up Wizzy, and took him to the Kingston Public Hospital. At the hospital, Wizzy refused to say how he got shot and who he was with. Several hours later, he died. The car carrying the wounded Sandokhan did not turn up at Kingston Public Hospital or any other medical facility. So where was Sandokhan? Sandokhan drew his last breath in the back of the woman's car. Yes, he died in the car. When this happened, the rush to get to the hospital was no longer necessary. Sandokhan's body was taken out of the car by his cronies and abandoned. Around 6:30 a.m. on that same Thursday morning, the body of 27 years old Wayne Simit, aka Sandokhan, was found in bushes on a road in the community of Mount Salos in the hills of St. Andrew. The body had no clothes on except the brief and a pair of brown socks. The Red Hills Police was called. The body of Sandokhan was transferred to Madden's funeral home on North Street, Kingston. This is it lying on a slab. The following day, September 9, many individuals came by the funeral home to get a look at his body. Sandokhan is dead. After Sandokhan's body was found, it was taken to Madden's funeral home where a post-mortem examination was done. The body was later released to the officials of the St. Catherine District Prison. Sandokhan's body was placed in a simple nailed-up box and buried on the compound of the St. Catherine District Prison. During the period that Jamaica carried out the death sentence, all the prisoners hanged were buried on the compound of the St. Catherine District Prison, including Aston Jolly, aka Whoppy King, who had murdered Sidney Garrell in 1951, which triggered the saying, "Since Whoppy killed Philip." The grave of Sandokhan cannot be specifically identified because the prison officials there do not maintain tombs or headstones for the prisoners' graves. Thanks for watching.